You know, sometimes the world looks at you and they think they know you. They think because your smile shines bright, your heart must be unbreakable. But even light has its shadows. There were nights when I looked in the mirror and even I couldn't recognize the woman staring back. The one who once believed love was a fairy tale. The one who thought forever meant peace. Everyone saw my crown, my gowns, my grace, but no one saw the cracks in my soul. They saw Queen Bee, but they didn't see Beyoncé, the woman who cried in silence. You see, when you love deeply, you open a door. And that door doesn't just lead to joy. It leads to pain, to patience, to tests you never thought love would bring. There's an African proverb that says, "Love is sweet, but the road to love is rough." And I learned that truth the hard way. Fame has a way of making people forget you're human. They see your photos, your perfection, your performance, but they never see the prayers, the tears, the exhaustion. Sometimes I wonder if the world would have treated my heart differently had they known that behind every note I sang was a piece of pain I was healing from. Another proverb says, "Even a golden pot can crack if it faces enough fire." And baby, the fire came. But before we go there, let me take it back to when love was still new. When his smile made my heart skip, and I believed the universe had finally sent me my forever. They say every love story is beautiful, but ours felt like destiny. At least that's what I thought. Our connection wasn't forced, it flowed. We were two souls who spoke through rhythm, through art, through silence. And when he looked at me, I saw home. But home sometimes can be the place that hurts you the most. When I look back now, I realize something powerful. The same love that built me almost broke me. And the same pain that tried to destroy me became my greatest teacher. As another proverb says, rain doesn't fall forever. Even the sky runs out of tears. I didn't know it then, but my storm was coming, and it was about to test every part of my soul. People ask me all the time, "Beyonce, how do you stay strong? How do you keep going when the world keeps watching?" And I tell them, strength isn't something you're born with. It's something you build every time life breaks you and you decide to stand again. There's a line I once wrote in my journal. I never share it publicly, but maybe today I will. It said, "The world may love my voice, but God hears my silence." That's the truth. Because when you're broken, words don't always come out as music. Sometimes they come out as tears, as prayers, as quiet nights when you whisper to yourself, "I'll be okay." I've learned that even in love, you have to find yourself again and again, because love without self-awareness can feel like drowning. And I was drowning in expectations and rumors and the noise of a world that demanded perfection. But perfection is a prison, and I was finally ready to break free. They sang, "A bird that sings through the storm will never fear the rain again." That became my truth. I didn't know it then, but this was the beginning of my awakening, the start of a long, painful, beautiful transformation. If you're watching this and you've ever loved someone so deeply it scared you, if you ever smiled in public while crying in private, that this story, my story, is also yours. Because love, real love, isn't about perfection. It's about endurance. It's about the lessons hidden inside heartbreak. And sometimes it's about learning how to love yourself again when you've forgotten how. The world saw my smile, but not my storm.
Sorry, I forgot to introduce myself. Not because I was being proud, but because sometimes when the heart starts digging, the tongue forgets the formalities. My name is Beyoncé Giselle Knowles Carter. But please don't let the last name fool you. Before the spotlight, before the crowns, before the world called me Queen, I was just a girl from Houston. A dreamer, a believer, a soul that wanted to love deeply and sing honestly. When I was younger, I used to write letters to my future self. I'd say things like, "Dear Beyoncé, don't ever forget to love like your mama taught you. With patience, with grace, with fire." And I'd seal it with a smile as if the future could hear me. I had dreams bigger than my fears. But one dream stood taller than them all. To love and to be loved purely, not because of who I was, but because of who I am. Then he came, Jay. We met like most stories begin, unexpected, unplanned, maybe even divinely timed. He wasn't just another man. He was a rhythm I couldn't stop dancing to. He spoke in verses, moved with quiet confidence, and carried a mind sharper than any diamond I've ever worn. At first, I told myself, don't fall. You're young, you're rising, you have so much ahead. But the heart never listens to logic, does it? There's a proverb that says, when the heart chooses, even the eyes can't see reason. And my heart had already chosen. We connected through music first, through stories in our lyrics. He'd send a beat, I'd hum a melody. He'd rap a line, I'd answer it with harmony. It was like our souls had been speaking long before our mouths ever did. And when we did '03 Bonnie and Clyde together, the world saw chemistry. But what I saw was comfort. A partner who understood the rhythm of my silence. A man who saw me not just as Beyoncé the star, but Beyoncé the human being. I remember one night, we were in the studio, just us, the music, and this quiet magic floating in the air. He looked at me and said, "You don't have to be perfect with me. Just be real." And that moment, it changed something inside of me. Because in a world that demanded perfection for me every second, he gave me permission to be real. Love at that time felt like a song with no ending. Every verse made sense. Every chorus came with laughter, with late night talks, with dreams we painted together under studio lights. We were young, bold, unstoppable, the kind of couple people looked at and said, they've got it all. And maybe we did for a while. You see, when you live in the light, you forget that shadows always follow. Fame magnifies everything. Your success, your smile, your silence, your pain. And even though our life felt like forever, I started to feel something shifting. Little things. Moments when he'd look away a second too long. Conversations that felt shorter. Calls that came later. But back then, I brushed it off. Because love, when pure, always assumes the best. There's a proverb my grandmother used to say, "The heart that loves never suspects evil." And Lord knows, I believe that. I didn't realize that life was slowly preparing me for lessons I didn't ask for. That the woman who sang dangerously in love would one day understand the danger in those words more than she ever wanted to. But before that storm arrived, I was in my ordinary world, a girl in love, a woman balancing fame and faith, and a dreamer believing love could fix anything. Looking back, I see how innocent that hope was, but I don't regret it. Because that innocence was beautiful. That belief that love could conquer all is what made me who I am today. There's another proverb that says, "Even the strongest tree starts as a tender shoot." I was that tender shoot, believing, trusting, growing in the sunlight of love, unaware of the storm clouds that were gathering behind me. If I could speak to that younger version of me now, I tell her, "Beyonce, keep living the way you do. But don't forget to love yourself the loudest, because the journey ahead wasn't just about loving a man. It was about discovering the strength of a woman." So that's me, a girl from Houston, a dreamer who fell in love with a man called Jay-Z, a woman who believed love could conquer everything. But as I soon learned, even love has its trials. And mine was about to begin.
We were magic. Everything we touched turned into rhythm. Every glance, a verse. Every laugh, a melody. We weren't just two people in love. We were two artists who spoke a language the world could only feel through our songs. I remember waking up some mornings and the first thing I'd hear was him humming. Not rehearsing, just humming. And I'd smile because even his silence carried music. We built our connection in studios, in airports, and late night conversations that drifted from dreams to fears and back again. Sometimes we didn't need to say a word. The energy between us said everything. We tease each other, challenge each other, push each other to go harder. Not just in music, but in life. When we created Crazy in Love, I felt like the whole world could finally hear what my heart was saying. That record wasn't just a hit. It was my confession, my I love you, wrapped in trumpets, beats, and heat. Pause. Jay once told me, love should make you feel like you're flying, but grounded enough to never forget where you came from. And for a long time, that's what we had, a balance between heaven and earth. When we performed together, it was electricity. Two souls, same stage, feeding off each other's fire. People called us Bonnie and Clyde, and I used to laugh and say, maybe we are, just with a mic instead of the gun. We were young, fearless, and deeply in tune. We traveled together, build together, dream together. When I launched my solo career, he was there, cheering from the shadows, proud, protective, patient.
He understood my hunger for greatness. He admired my discipline, and I admired his vision. We were like mirrors, reflecting each other's ambition. There's a proverb that says, when two stars share the same sky, the night becomes brighter. That was us. Right. Unstoppable. Shining so hard, we couldn't see the clouds forming behind us. In those years, love felt easy. We didn't argue much, we didn't question much, and maybe that was the first mistake. Believing love that feels easy will always stay that way. Another proverb says, a calm sea doesn't teach a sailor how to survive. And I guess we were sailing smooth waters, blind to the lessons waiting beneath the waves. I remember our first big fight. It wasn't about cheating or lies. It was about distance. The distance success creates when two powerful people chase dreams in different directions. Sometimes I've gone home from the tour and he'd be gone, not because he didn't care, but because he was chasing his own empire. And at first, I understood. We were both building something bigger than ourselves. But then the calls became shorter, the laughter less frequent, and the good nights less consistent. Still, I told myself, he loves you. Don't overthink, because that's what loyal hearts do. They find excuses for silence. Yet, deep down, I started feeling this quiet ache. Not loud enough to break me, but steady enough to wake me. A woman always knows, even before she admits it. There's a proverb that says the ear may not see, but it hears the whisper of truth. And I began to hear whispers, not from the world, but from within. Still, I silenced them because I didn't want to believe that man I prayed for could one day become the man I'd had to pray about. I remember one night vividly. We were on a balcony, city lights below, music playing faintly through the speakers. I looked at him and said, "Do you think love ever changes?" He smiled, looked down at the streets below, and said quietly, "Only if we let it." And in that moment, I felt peace again, because I wanted to believe him. I needed to believe him. Love to me was still sacred, still worth every tear, every test. There's another proverb that says, even the sweetest honey can turn sour if left too long. I didn't know it yet, but our sweetness was starting to fade. Not because of hatred, but because of neglect. Love doesn't die overnight. It fades in moments, missed calls, unspoken feelings, and the quiet surrender of, "I'll be fine," when you're not. Still, I cling to hope, because that's who I am. I don't give up on people I love. I fight. I pray. I endure. And for a while, that endurance looked like strength. But later, I learned it was also pain, wearing a disguise. Before the storm, we were magic. Two souls wrapped in melody and promise. But every magic trick has a secret, and ours was about to be revealed.
It starts small, not with an explosion, but with a whisper. A subtle change in tone, a late reply, a distance you can't measure with your eyes. Only your soul can feel it. That's how temptation creeps in, not as a stranger, but as a shadow. And love, no matter how strong, can feel that shadow even before it appears. At first, I thought it was just stress. Music, business, the weight of being seen but not understood. But then there were things that didn't sit right. Nights to stay out longer than usual, trips that certainly had no details, smiles that didn't reach his eyes anymore. My intuition began to whisper, and I tried to silence it. Because when a woman loves deeply, she doesn't want to see what's breaking her. She just wants to fix it. There's a proverb that says, when the eyes refuse to cry, the heart weeps in silence. And mine was weeping, silently, painfully, endlessly. People think betrayal begins the moment you find out the truth. But no, it begins in the waiting. In those moments when your heart senses something is wrong, but your mind keeps saying, he wouldn't do that to me. It's like a war between your soul and your hope. And hope is a dangerous thing. It keeps you holding on to someone who may have already let go. I remember one night, we were having dinner. The conversation was short. His phone kept lighting up. And his laughter, it didn't sound like home anymore. I looked at him, and for a second, it felt like I was looking at a stranger wearing my husband's face. That moment, that quiet, invisible heartbreak, felt heavier than any argument ever could. There's a proverb that says, the one who wears the crown also bears its thorns. And that night, I felt every thorn. Because when the world calls you a power couple, you can't show your pain. You smile for cameras, you pose for pictures, you perform love even when your heart is bleeding backstage. That's the price of being admired. You can't afford to look broken. I would lie awake at night, asking myself questions I didn't want answers to. Like, did I do something wrong? Am I not enough? Is this what love becomes when fame gets in the way? But love, true love, doesn't die easy. And I wasn't ready to let go. Because even in my confusion, I still believed in us. Sometimes I'd go into the studio just to escape my thoughts. I'd write lines I couldn't say out loud, melodies that carried my pain better than my voice could. One night I wrote, "What good is a diamond if it loses its shine?" And I cried for hours. I wasn't crying for him. I was crying for the version of me that thought love was unbreakable. I once heard a saying that stayed with me. Temptation tests loyalty the way fire tests gold. And maybe that's what was happening. Our love was being tested. Our loyalty was being weighed. And I didn't know if we'd survive the fire. But here's what I learned later. Temptation doesn't destroy love. It exposes what was already weak. It shows you where communication stopped, where attention faded, where appreciation turned into assumption. I used to look at him and think, this is my forever. But that night, for the first time, forever started to look uncertain. Another proverb says, when trust is broken, even silence sounds like lies. And that became my reality. Even when he said, I love you, something inside me whispered, do you? I started noticing the small things. Perfumes that wasn't mine, messages he'd quickly hide, conversations that ended when I entered the room.
Each clue was like a drop of rain, and before I knew it, I was standing in the storm I never asked for. But I didn't explode. I didn't scream. I didn't break things or walk away. Because love, when deep, doesn't react first. It reflects. And I needed time to understand what was really happening. So I did what I always do. I prayed. I sang. I cried in silence. There's a proverb that says, "He who carries water in a basket learns the value of patience." That was me, trying to hold love in a broken vessel. And though it leaked, I still held it because part of me hoped the cracks could be healed. But deep down, I knew something sacred between us had been touched. And once that happens, love is never the same again. Before the world knew it, before the headlines, before the songs, I had already faced the betrayal in private. And sometimes that's the cruelest kind of heartbreak, the one no one else sees. When love meets temptation, only truth can survive.
When the truth finally found me, I didn't scream. I didn't cry right away. I just sat still. Because sometimes silence is louder than pain. It was strange. The person I loved most had become a stranger, and my old heart had turned into my enemy. Every beat reminded me of him. Every song whispered his name. Even my reflection looked like someone I didn't know anymore. I kept asking myself, how did we get here? We had love, we had dreams, we had everything people pray for, but somewhere along the way, we stopped praying together. There's a proverb that says, when the root decays, even the strongest tree will fall. And our root, our foundation, have been neglected for too long. I wanted to be angry, but I couldn't. Because when you truly love someone, you don't know how to hate them, even when they break you. That's the curse of a loyal heart. It keeps defending the one who hurt it. At night, I'd stare at the ceiling, replaying every memory, every promise, every time he said forever. And forever suddenly felt like a word too fragile for real life. I remember one night I couldn't sleep. I walked into the studio, sat in front of the mic, and just breathed. The lights were dim, my eyes were swollen from crying, but my voice was still there. It was the only thing that hadn't left me. And so I sang, not for the world, not for a crowd, but for me. Every lyric became therapy. Every note was a tear I didn't want no one to see. I poured everything, the love, the betrayal, the confusion, the forgiveness I didn't yet understand, all into sound. And that's when I realized something. Healing doesn't begin when they say sorry. It begins when you start telling your truth. My heart was torn, but it was also teaching me. It was saying, breathe, girl, you're still here. Stand even when it hurts. Sing because silence will suffocate you. There's another proverb my grandmother used to say, even a cracked pot still carries water. And that's exactly what I was, cracked, but still carrying my kids, carrying my heart, carrying the love that didn't deserve to die just because it was tested. Some people think forgiveness is weakness, but no, forgiveness is freedom. Because if you don't forgive, the pain becomes your home.
and I refused to live there. I started reading again, praying again, meditating, learning to love myself outside of him. It wasn't easy. Some days I'd wake up strong, ready to move forward, and other days I'd collapse in tears and ask God why love had to hurt this much. But pain has a purpose. The wound is where the light enters. And through that wound, I started seeing myself differently. I realized I had spent so long being Beyonce the superstar that I had forgotten how to just be Beyonce the woman who still believes in love, the woman who still laughs when her daughter says something funny, the woman who still dances barefoot in a living room when no one's watching. That woman, she was still there, buried under pain, but alive. And once I found her again, I knew this wasn't the end of my story. Yes, my heart had betrayed me for a while because it kept loving what hurt it. But now, it was learning to love what healed it. I learned that being broke doesn't mean being finished. It means being rebuilt. It means God is reshaping your strength, teaching you lessons only pain can reveal. The fire that burns you today is the same fire that forges your tomorrow. Maybe that's what love is supposed to do sometimes. Break you open so you can grow beyond who you were. My heart was my enemy once, but now it's my greatest teacher. Because through it all, I didn't lose love. I just learned how to love myself.
You know, when the pain finally begins to fade, what replaces it isn't joy, it's clarity. Clarity is quiet. It doesn't shout or dance, it just settles like dawn after a long, stormy night. And that's how it began, my rebirth. Not with noise, not with another hit song, but with peace. For the first time in years, I could look in the mirror and not see the cracks, just the woman God was still shaping. They say you can't heal in the same environment that broke you. But I learned you can if you change how you exist within it. So I stopped existing for applause and started living for alignment. I went back to the studio, not to prove anything, but to speak truth, to speak my truth. That's when Lemonade was born. Not just as music, but as medicine. Every lyric became a confession. Every melody was a scar I refused to hide anymore. When I sang, "You can taste the dishonesty," I wasn't angry. I was cleansing. I was freeing my soul from the weight of pretending. People said, she turned her pain into power. But no, I didn't turn it. I transformed it. There's a difference. Turning is temporary. Transformation is forever. And transformation is born from truth. I stopped being afraid of my voice. Not the one that sings, but the one that speaks. Because silence had cost me too much. There's a proverb that says, "The child who is not embraced by the village will burn it down to feel its warmth." I understood that now. Sometimes we destroy ourselves just to feel seen. But I was done burning. Now I was ready to build. So I started pouring my lessons into others. My dancers, my sisters, my fans, my children. I told them, don't let your pain silence your purpose.
And that became my mantra. Because purpose is what survives the fire. Jay and I, we began again. Not because we forgot the past, but because we faced it together. He was healing too. He had his own demons to fight, his own pride to swallow, his own heart to rebuild. Forgiveness didn't mean everything was perfect again. It meant we were both willing to rebuild with open hands, not clenched fists. When you water the soil of forgiveness, love grows again, but this time it grows roots. We learned how to talk again, how to listen without defending, how to hold space for pain and still hold hands. And through that, I realized love isn't about never breaking. It's about learning to rebuild the same home over and over again with stronger walls and softer hearts. When we performed Everything is Love together, it wasn't just an album, it was closure. It was rebirth. Two souls, scarred but not ruined. Two hearts still capable of rhythm. We weren't who we were before. We were better, older, wiser, more human. There's another proverb that says, a bird doesn't sing because it has an answer. It sings because it has a song. That's me now. I don't sing for perfection. I sing because I'm still here, because I've lived 3 storms and learned that love, true love, isn't fragile. It's resilient. And if my story teaches anyone anything, let it be this. Don't let heartbreak convince you you're broken. You are becoming. You are being remade for purpose, for strength, for wisdom, for the kind of love that begins with you. Gold is purified by fire. And I, Beyoncé, I've walked through fire and I came out shining, because this isn't the story of betrayal anymore. This is the story of becoming, the story of love, rebirth, and a woman who refused to let pain define her legacy. And that, my friend, is how a queen is reborn.
When I look back now, I realize that every heartbreak, every tear, every silent night wasn't meant to destroy me. It was meant to define me. Because sometimes you have to lose the version of yourself that settled for less to become the version that refuses to. There's a proverb I once heard. The child who has never been burned by soup does not fear the fire. I smiled when I heard that, because life burned me. But instead of fear, it gave me wisdom. Wisdom to know that love isn't a fairy tale. It's work. It's patience. It's sacrifice. It's 2 imperfect souls choosing each other again and again, even when it's not easy. Now, when I see Blue Ivy dancing, when I hear Rumi's laughter, when I feel Sar's tiny hand gripping mine, I understand legacy in a new way. Legacy isn't what you leave in your bank account. It's what you plant in hearts that will beat after yours stops. I used to think my purpose was to entertain. Now, I know my purpose is to empower. Empower the next generation to know that strength and softness can coexist. That beauty isn't just imperfection, It's in perseverance. There's a proverb that says, an egg does not fight a stone, yet the bird still hatches. That's life. It's not about winning every battle. It's about believing that what's inside you is stronger than what's against you. When Jay and I stand on stage together now, it's not about image anymore. It's about energy. It's about the message we carry that love can break and still be beautiful again. Forgiveness didn't make me weak. It made me whole. It taught me that healing isn't forgetting. It's remembering without resentment. Someone's asked me, Beyonce, after everything, do you still believe in love? I smiled and said, I don't just believe in love, I embody it. Because love isn't just what we receive, it's what we become. My mother once told me, if you want your daughter to know how she deserves to be loved, show her how you love yourself. And that stayed with me. So now every time I sing, every time I speak, every time I stand tall, I do it not just for me, but for every woman who's ever been silenced, every man who's ever felt unworthy, every soul who's ever been broken and thought they'd never rise again. Because if my story can reach one heart, if it can remind one person that their pain has a purpose, then every tear was worth it. There's another proverb. Rain does not fall on one roof alone. And it's true. Pain is universal, but so is hope. We all go through storms, but storms don't last. The sun always finds a way back, and sometimes the same rain that soaked you will help your garden grow. To everyone listening right now, to every soul who has been hurt and still hopes for love again, remember this. You are not broken. You are becoming. You are being shaped, refined, and prepared for the kind of love that won't ask you to shrink. Even the moon has scars, but it still shines every night. And that's what you must do too. Shine. Even when you're healing, even when they doubt you, even when the world misunderstands your silence. Because true love, real love, starts within. And once you learn to love yourself fully, you'll attract the kind of love that mirrors your worth. So yes, this is my legacy. Not the fame, not the awards, not even the music, but the truth that I lived it all. The pain, the passion, the power, and still found peace. So when people say, Beyonce, what's your greatest achievement? I don't say lemonade. I don't say the Grammys. I say my greatest achievement was learning how to love myself and teaching the world that they can too. A heart that has been broken and healed becomes the strongest instrument of love. And that's what I hope to leave behind. A legacy of love, a legacy of strength, a legacy that whispers to the next generation. You can rise, you can heal, you can love again. Because this isn't the story of a superstar. It's the story of a woman who walked through fire and chose to shine anyway. And that's the real power of love.
When I look back now, I don't see a broken woman. I see a survivor. A woman who loved deeply, cried loudly, forgave bravely, and rose beautifully. To every woman out there listening, I want you to know something. You are enough, even when the world tells you otherwise. You are not weak for forgiving, and you are not foolish for loving. But remember, love yourself the loudest, because when you honor your heart, you teach others how to treat it.
Jay and I have come a long way, and now we tell our story not to show perfection, but to show truth. Because sometimes healing isn't about hiding your scars, it's about showing them and saying, yes, I made it through. So if this story touched your heart, if it reminded you of your own battles, your own pain, or your own victory, I want you to stay with them on this channel because the journey isn't over yet. Jay-Z, my husband, my partner, my best friend, he's ready to share his own side of this story. The world has heard my heart. Now it's time to hear his truth. And trust me, it's something you don't want to miss. So before you go, hit that subscribe button, turn on your notifications, and join this family of love, pain, and redemption. Because next, Jay-Z will speak for himself. And when he does, you'll finally see the full picture of how two souls fought their way back to forever.